I'm at this place called Takeoff Point, and this is really close to Parker Dam here in Parker, Arizona. Let me tell you about something that, and this is just kind of a strange thing, and I'm sure it happens to all of you, but I'll tell you my experience. It's been getting a little bit warm here. Today, it's probably in the low 80s. It's supposed to be in the mid 80s all week. You know, I'm in a little metal trailer, a little box with no air conditioning. So if it's 80 out here, then it's, 90 or more in the trailer. So I have to start thinking about, do I want to stay in this area or do I want to move farther north? I was looking on the map, and directly north of me on the main road is Las Vegas. Well, I've already spent a couple of weeks in Las Vegas, so probably not the best choice. If you follow that road and keep going north, the road kind of veers to the right a little bit. You come to the next town, which is St. George, Utah. And so I thought, well, that might be a good choice. And, it's a small town, but it's, big enough for me. So I just kind of had that in the back of my mind, and I just thought, St. George, Utah, I'm going to look that up. So I just had been thinking about it, hadn't looked it up, hadn't Googled it, hadn't told anybody about it. I just had it in the back of my mind, right? I'm on YouTube a little while later, and it shows all these videos that, they suggest that you watch. And so I saw one with Ethel Merman in it. Now, Ethel Merman was a little bit before my time, but I still knew who she was. I knew she had kind of a loud, kind of boisterous voice. I thought, I'm going to watch this video. So I clicked on the video, watched the Ethel Merman interview on the Dick Cavett show, and it just so happened that the next guest coming up was Agnes Moorehead, who played Endora on Bewitched. So I was like, well, that's more my time. I grew up watching Bewitched. And so I said, I'll watch this too. So I watched the interview, and then I noticed that it was filmed in 1973. And I remember somebody telling me that she died in the early 70s. So I Googled it. As it turns out, she died in 74. Just a year after that interview, she died of uterine cancer. Well, in that interview in 1973, she did not look sick at all. In fact, she looked vibrant and healthy and alive, and she maybe didn't even know she had uterine cancer at that point in time. I looked up her family, how you one thing leads to another. So I Googled her family, and her mother lived until 106. Yet she died so young. She died in her early 70s. So I thought that was really curious. So I looked into it a little bit further. And as it turns out, she died of uterine cancer because she filmed a movie called The Conqueror. This movie had like 200 people in it. It had John Wayne was one of the big stars, and of course her in it, and some other people. It had, when I say 200, I mean it had people working on the lighting and all kinds of stuff. Well, they filmed it out in the desert, and this was back in the 50s. Back in the 50s, they had conducted some tests, some nuclear bomb tests in the desert. So apparently, some of the nuclear residue was still kind of, I guess, on the ground or in the air or something. And they were out in the desert for just 2 weeks filming that movie. And 91 people out of the 200 that worked on that film got cancer. And in fact, even the people who came to visit the actors on stage, like for example, John Wayne's son who came to visit him, he also got cancer. I mean, it was really clear that the cancer came from the time that they spent in the desert filming that movie, The Conqueror. Sadly, The Conqueror was a commercial flop. It was a good movie, but it was just turned out to be a commercial flop, and a lot of people don't even know about it. So I thought, I got to look this up and see where this is filmed, So I Googled The Conqueror, and guess where it was filmed? St. George, Utah. I'm speechless. So how come I just happened to click on something And I had been thinking about going to St. George, Utah, and I just happened to be clicking on something that, in a remote way, a roundabout way, led me to hear information about St. George, Utah. It's crazy. I mean, it's just one of the things we don't kind of understand about life. The bigger picture that's just very mysterious. Along that same line, I had gone into Walmart because I needed a new pair of boots, right? And I found the pair that I liked, and so I was trying to find the right size. You know, I wear a size 11. I was trying to find the right size. So, you know, I was staring at that box. You know, it's the same box, and I was like looking through all the different sizes, you know, 8, 9, 10, whatever. So I got really a good idea of what that box looked like in my mind, right? So I got my shoes and I left. I came back the next day, and I went back into Walmart the next day to get something else. So I'm walking into Walmart. I'm wearing my new shoes. They got steel toes on them, right? And I'm kind of thinking to myself as I'm approaching the door, you know, man, these boots need a little bit of breaking in, you know, but they're pretty nice. I had this thought, and I look up, and here's this guy walking out with the exact same pair of boots. I mean, I recognized the box immediately. I mean, what are the odds of that happening? You know, it's just the strange things that happen like that. They're just completely unexplainable. So that thing you see behind me, I don't know if you can really see it that well or not, is Parker Dam. And Parker Dam here, of course, in Parker, Arizona, is what originally created Lake Havasu. Believe it or not, that little dam back there created this entire massive lake by trapping the water from the Colorado River. I think this was back in the 30s. A couple of weeks ago, I was staying at Lake Mead Recreation Area. This is right outside of Las Vegas. And so I needed to store my trailer somewhere. So I was looking at places to store it. One of the places that is nearest to Lake Mead Recreation Area is called Lake Mead Boat Storage, I do believe. It's right outside the gate, right, to the recreation area. So as I was driving up there, I looked over on the side of the road over onto the left, and I saw a bunch of graffiti, right? So I was like, obviously I have to go check this out. So I went over and checked out the graffiti, and it was really extensive. I mean, whoever did this graffiti is pretty talented, and they definitely spent some time doing it. After there were these circular things in it. And so I was like, I gotta, do the research on this, but how would one look this up, So subsequently, I went on to Google and I pulled up the Google map, and it finally occurred to me what I was seeing. And it's this one of the big kind of circular areas is a casino wheel. The one where you just drop the ball and they spin it. And I found out that this site was created by an artist, a graffiti artist. I do believe the name was Aware. That's what they call themselves. I don't know if it's male or female. But apparently this area was an old manganese site. And it's an abandoned mining site. So there were a lot of remnants of that out there in the area. So this graffiti artist decided to come in and just add some color, I guess you could say, to the area. He or she did a really good job. I mean, I think for the most part, graffiti artists are really talented people. I just think that sometimes their talent is misdirected because they're doing it, you know, somewhere that doesn't belong to them, and then it subsequently winds up being covered up, or, you know, they get arrested or whatever. It's kind of a shame, but it takes a lot of imagination to be really good at doing something like that. In the last video, I kind of left you on a cliffhanger because I had this situation where I was inside my trailer, I was trapped in there by bees, and the bees kept coming and I couldn't get out. And so instead of just telling you what I did, I suggested you tell me what you would have done. And I did that for two reasons. Number one, to see if people actually watch my videos all the way through. And then number two, to kind of force the viewer to think about for a moment, rather than to judge me for whatever I did, but to think about for a moment, what would you do if you were in that situation? There was literally nothing I could do. And of course, as time went by, the more bees started coming. So I had to kill the bees. So that's what happened. I wasn't really happy about it. I don't like killing anything, actually. Definitely not bees, because there just aren't enough of them in that, you know, on the planet now. But that's what happened, and so there you have the answer to your mystery. Anyway, I'm going to end the video here, and of course, naturally, I can't end the video without giving you a nice visual treat at the very end, and that's what I'm going to do. So I hope you enjoy it, and take care.